I remember the heavy silence, thick enough to suffocate, that settled between us during dinner. It wasn't just quiet, it was an active, oppressive presence, a tangible wall we had both built, brick by painful brick. We'd sit across from each other, eyes pointedly avoiding connection, each of us lost in our own thoughts, or more accurately, our own silent accusations. This wasn't the loving partnership I had envisioned. It was a slow, agonizing surrender to emotional isolation. It wasn't just one night, it was a pattern. A cruel, invisible chain that bound us to toxic dynamics. The sudden withdrawal, the passive-aggressive digs, the refusal to engage in meaningful conversation. Each cycle left us more wounded, more convinced that true connection was an impossible dream. We were reenacting relational traumas we both carried, unknowingly perpetuating the very pain we sought to escape. The antagonist wasn't a person, it was the destructive pattern itself, a living, breathing entity forged from our unaddressed fears and insecurities. It whispered doubts, fueled resentment, and convinced us that our love was flawed, irreparable. This cycle delighted in our misery, thriving on the distance it created, ensuring we remained strangers in our shared life. It was a monster we had inadvertently invited in. The human cost was crushing. My self-worth dwindled. I felt misunderstood, unheard, and profoundly alone even when we were in the same room. Weekends, once sacred, became minefields of unspoken tension, robbing me of joy, leaving me exhausted and anxious. I was losing myself, piece by agonizing piece, to this slow-burning relational fire. The night I found myself staring at our wedding photo, tears welling but refusing to fall, I knew something had to change. The emptiness in our home was deafening. The emotional distance, a canyon that felt too wide to cross. Our relationship was dying, and I felt utterly powerless to stop it. A desperate whisper inside me refused to let go. I started reading, frantically searching for answers, anything to explain why we kept repeating these devastating patterns. The pain was too great to ignore, and the love I still held, however buried, demanded one last fight. I began to understand that our issues weren't unique, that others had faced this very chasm and found a way back. My aha moment came when I stumbled upon the concept of toxic relationship patterns and attachment theory. It wasn't just about what we were doing, but why we were doing it. I realized our individual histories, our attachment styles, were playing out in destructive ways. I saw myself as the anxious pursuer and my partner as the avoidant, a classic dance of disconnection that guaranteed misunderstanding. This wasn't about blame, but about understanding our subconscious programming. Armed with this new understanding, I initiated the talk. My voice trembled, my heart pounded. I explained, not accused, how I saw our destructive cycle, how my fear of abandonment fueled my pursuit, which in turn triggered his fear of engulfment, leading to his withdrawal. It was terrifying, risking further rejection, but I knew I had to lay bare my own contribution to the chaos, to show him I wasn't just pointing fingers. To my astonishment, he didn't immediately withdraw. There was a flicker of surprise, then a softening in his gaze. He admitted he felt overwhelmed, misunderstood, and blamed. It wasn't a sudden fix, but it was a crack in the impenetrable wall we'd built. That night, for the first time in months, we talked for longer than 10 minutes, sitting closer than we had in ages, a fragile hope blossoming between us. We started consciously practicing a new way of communicating. Instead of reacting to triggers, we learned to pause, identify the underlying emotion, and express it without judgment. We validated each other's feelings, even if we didn't agree with the perspective, prioritizing empathy over being right. This new language felt awkward at first, like learning to speak again, but it slowly began to reshape our interactions, replacing bitterness with curiosity. We meticulously identified our individual and shared triggers. We learned to recognize the early warning signs of the cycle starting again, the subtle shift in tone, the unspoken tension, the impulse to retreat. Instead of letting them escalate, we agreed on code words or signals to pause, take a breath, and re-engage with intention. This proactive approach disarmed many potential conflicts before they could explode, creating a sense of safety we hadn't felt in years. Crucially, we learned about accountability and repair. When one of us slipped back into an old pattern, the other would gently but firmly call it out. Then came the hard part, taking responsibility and genuinely apologizing for the impact of our actions, not just the intent. It wasn't easy, but each act of sincere apology and forgiveness was a brick laid in the foundation of renewed trust. We were actively choosing to heal the small ruptures before they became chasms. The old patterns didn't vanish overnight. There were moments when the gravitational pull of withdrawal or anxious pursuit felt overwhelming. But now we had tools. We could name the pattern, acknowledge its resurfacing, and consciously choose a different path. It was grueling work, a constant vigilance against the echoes of the past. But each time we chose connection over comfort, our bond grew stronger, more resilient. We were fighting for each other, not against each other. As we dismantled the toxic patterns, a profound new intimacy emerged. We began to share our deepest fears, hopes, and vulnerabilities, not as weapons, but as gifts. Physical intimacy, once strained, flowed naturally from the emotional safety we were building. We were no longer afraid of what we might uncover, but excited by the depth of connection that became possible when we trusted each other's hearts. The ultimate boon was genuine intimacy. It wasn't the passionate, whirlwind kind, but a quiet, profound knowing, a deep resonance that transcended words. Our relationship, once a source of constant stress, became a sanctuary, a place of unwavering support and shared joy. We had transformed the chaos into understanding, the distance into a closeness I once thought impossible. Now the dinner table is no longer a silent battleground. It's a place for laughter, for sharing our days, for real connection. There's an ease, a lightness that was absent before. We no longer walk on eggshells, fearing an unseen explosion. Our home is filled with a warmth that radiates from two souls who finally understand each other, flaws and all. I often look back at the person I was, lost in that soul-crushing loneliness, dreading every interaction. The contrast is stark. The individual suffering has melted into shared strength. The silent tears have given way to shared laughter and quiet understanding. We are not just together. We are truly partnered, navigating life's challenges with a united front, rather than standing alone within a shared space. It feels like an entirely different life. Our journey through those toxic patterns wasn't easy, but it forged an unbreakable bond. The pain we endured now serves as a guiding light, a constant reminder of how far we've come. It's a testament to the power of self-awareness, communication, and a shared commitment to building something healthy and lasting. We learned that confronting the patterns often feels counterintuitive, but it's the only way to truly break free from their grip. Every day, we consciously choose connection over old habits. We understand that recognizing and avoiding toxic patterns isn't a one-time fix, but an ongoing practice of empathy, vulnerability, and intentional communication. It's about breaking generational cycles, healing past wounds, and building a relationship rooted in conscious love, respect, and profound mutual understanding. We are empowered by our knowledge and the choice we make to show up for each other authentically. If you find yourself caught in the invisible chains of toxic relationship patterns, know that transformation is not just a dream. It's a tangible, achievable reality. It starts with one brave step, one honest conversation, one moment of vulnerability. Embrace the journey of self-discovery and relational growth, for on the other side awaits a depth of genuine connection and intimacy that will truly transform your life. Your story of triumph is waiting to be written.